building a startup is a numbers game. Let me quickly explain what I mean by this. I've put here some of the gates I have in mind when building a startup. They can change, they can vary based on the type of startup that you build. But for most SaaS startup cases and also many others, it kind of looks like this. So what I've tried here is put on the gates. So you have first the idea, then the conceptualization, the validation at the market, building a product, reaching problem solution fit, reaching product market fit, and then growth. I've also put some numbers just behind the gates, and this is just some general feel. They are by far not accurate. It's just trying to illustrate the point I'm trying to make here with the math of startup cases. So let's explore what I mean by this. Building a startup is a numbers game, and you have two variables to tweak, basically. The first one is the probability of success for each gate, and the second one is the amount of cases you can build, you can execute. So now let's just try it out and visualize it with, as said before, just those numbers that I've just guessed. They are by far not accurate, but it should illustrate the point. So the first step is always an idea. You experience a problem yourself, or you just come up with a cool idea that needs to be built, obviously. More on how to come up with proper startup ideas in another video, but for now we just assume you have plenty of ideas. And then there is a step that you need to do, and this is building a concept out of your idea. So this doesn't have to be lots of work. It doesn't have to be a 10-page business plan or whatever. You just need to work it out a bit, right? So this can be a lean canvas, for example, or also just getting a little bit more into the business model, whatever. But often just the idea is not enough. You need at least a persona and the market, their problem and your value proposition, and then some ideas how you're going to build it. So let's explore this. So to visualize this, we'll do this like this. You move 80%, I didn't count, I just guess here. You move 80% of your ideas to the conceptualization phase, and 80% of the ideas manage to become a concept, actually. The others, they're just so irrelevant and stupid, which is totally okay, that you're not even considering them. So what you can see here is 2 of those ideas already die. So now let's continue with the idea that made it to the concept. You've created a lean canvas, you dig a little bit deeper into the business plan, and now you want to go to the validation. So validation means either creating a waiting list on a landing page, conducting a customer survey, or even customer interviews. You just try to grasp a little bit, is the market actually needing this, or is it just an idea I'm having, or whatever? And it's really just trying to understand, is it just an idea that I have in my bedroom and no one actually cares, or is it something that actually matters? This is validation. What we can see here, and it's already getting tough, this is 20% already. So what we're going to do now is actually only 2 of these ideas manage to become validated successfully, and all the others die out because no one cared about them. Like, I have so many ideas that I tried to build, that I actually built also sometimes, and no one actually cared about. So this is a total normal thing, that you think there is something that needs to be built and it's a great idea and whatever, and no one really cares. That's okay. But we need to be realistic about those numbers, right? So what we see here is lots of ideas already die out here. And then the next step is building an MVP, a minimum viable product. This is a term often used, and it's a great thing. An MVP is really, really valuable to building a startup. but most people miss out on the V, which stands for viable. And it's really important that this product, this first version, is actually useful for your customer, for your clients. Because if you just build something to get it out there and it doesn't really matter to the user, you cannot learn anything from the market. You cannot test any hypotheses or anything like this. So building something useful is actually really important. And what I've done here is I've ranked this as 95% because for techies and most startup that you probably gonna try, you can build it. This is not the difficult step to actually build something most of the time. The difficult steps come afterwards. And we're going to look at this here. So what we can see here is we're optimistic. Both of these ideas can be built. And now it's a difficult step. The difference between MVP and problem solution fit, which I used here as PSF, problem solution fit, this means that your audience actually has a problem that you are solving with your MVP. A good way to measure problem solution fit is either paying customers. This means your users, your clients, actually pay you money for what you're doing. This often is a great indicator for problem solution fit because people will always tell you that your idea is great and they're gonna use it and they love it and everything. But as soon as they pay money, you know they're serious about it. The second great indicator for problem solution fit is recurring users, recurring customers. So if you build a free version of a product and your users actually come back, this often means that you're solving a problem for them that is useful to them and they come back. So this is also a great indicator. They are basically the two most valuable: paying customers or recurring users. The problem is it's really difficult. I've built insane amount of products that had no recurring users and definitely no paying customers. So this is totally okay and a step of the journey, but we often underestimate the difficulty of this step. What we can see here is I now have too few bullets to realistically move one to the right. So this means that we're losing at the numbers game of building a startup. What I mean by this is either our probabilities for each gate are too low, or the amount of cases that we can build in a reasonable amount of time are too low. But just ignoring this is not a good way to approach building a startup. Because what we can see now is, I didn't count the circles I've drawn, but we have a handful. And with these amount of cases that we've built and the odds that we have on top of here, we're likely not going to build a successful startup. And that's okay. So we can learn from it and change something about it. But just ignoring it and just thinking this will work out, I can feel it. I've been there plenty of times. It didn't work out, even though I felt it. So I highly recommend not doing that approach. So you either need to figure out how can you maximize the amount of cases and the success chance. And we will get to that quickly afterwards. But first, let me finish those gates. Then the gate we've discussed here is problem solution fit. As said, recurring or paying customers. But once you have this, you're not necessarily ready to scale yet. Most startups kill themselves through premature scaling. I will definitely talk about this in another YouTube video, but product market fit is a really, and this is what PMF stands for, is a really difficult topic because there are many different definitions of it. And all of them seem plausible, but not all of them are useful for the startup journey. But basically the main problem that product market fit tries to help with is if you have some paying customers and then you think, I've got it all figured out, I raise some money, I pay all of it into marketing and sales, and then later on you figure out that your product isn't good enough for your market, for your users, and the churn, which means the users leaving your product, is too high, and then you end up exploding your startup because it just doesn't work out financially, because it's not good enough from the beginning. And then the last step in here is just growth. This is then the step when your product is really ready for being scaled, but it's always a possibility that you still fail with growth. You cannot address your market scalably, which is possible if it's not addressable, and that's okay, but we need to consider it properly. So these are the gates that I just had in mind for now. I will definitely go over them in another video to really figure out all the steps that I think are part of the startup journey. Of course, they differ from the kind of startup you're building. If you're building a deep tech, it doesn't look like this. If you're building a SaaS, it probably looks somewhat like this. And you just try to get to the market as quickly as possible. So now, one thing we can do is considering the amount of effort it takes to move from one gate to another. So to move from an idea to concept, it's not that difficult. You go on ChatGPT, you ask it to fill out a lean canvas for you, for your idea, and you're already really, really well served. I mean, you can also do a quick competitor analysis. ChatGPT will also help you with this, but it's really low effort to get there. Validating your idea already takes more effort. You need to interact with customers, with users, which is especially painful if you're a developer, but also if you're not a developer, it's just time consuming and maybe also painful, right? The most time consuming step in most cases is building the MVP. Like building the actual product is really time consuming, and it increases the risk of your venture that you're taking, because you're putting effort in it while you still have a chance to fail. So what we can do is we try to move the gates that have a low probability, like the problem solution fit, before building the MVP. And this helps us to not invest lots of effort in building a product no one actually likes. And there are plenty of ways how to do this. One of them is, for example, trying to get pre-orders. So what you can do is you can write out your offer and then just tell your customers, hey, this is what I'm going to build. You can pre-order now, and then you will get the product and get some discount or whatever. And then you can actually see, is your value proposition valuable enough that a customer trusts you in doing a pre-order? You can do this with money back guarantee, so it's zero risk for your customer, and still many won't do it. So there are plenty of ways how to do the startup journey head first, so that you try to do the difficult things first instead of just feeling comfortable building something and then figuring out later that it was for absolutely nothing. So what can we actually learn from this? There are two simple things and one a little bit more complicated. So let's start with the simple ones. The first of those is just try to optimize your odds of success at each gate. This you can do easily by reading some entrepreneurial books, by watching some YC YouTube videos, or anything else that helps you gain more skills. Talk to some founder friends, etc., which helps you increase the odds at each gate. The second step is maximize the amount of cases that you can actually actually execute. And maybe another interesting point here is the amount of cases you can execute is either dependent on your time or on your financial resources. Let's say you want to have children at some point in your life, then you definitely want a stable financial income so you can feed your family and provide properly. So this is probably the point where you either need to have a successful startup or you're quitting it to get a normal job. So this is important, that this is the real limit to the startup journey, or one of the real limits. Another limit can be your runway, that you just want to say, okay, I will try startup stuff until I don't have any cash anymore. And then this is just your runway, your burn rate divided through your total cash as of right now. And this is a real limit as well. So this is the amount of cases you can do. But improving the amount of cases you can do is not as trivial as it might seem to just do more, work more, or whatever. But it's a little bit more complicated. And one way I like to think about it is to do the difficult things, as I said before, first. So what you try to do is that the things that have a low probability, but also lower effort, lower time consumption, to do them first so you can fail fast. You probably have heard this before. This is really important because this allows you to, instead of work half a year without any validation and then go to the market and fail, you can conduct some customer interviews, surveys, a waiting list, whatever, within a week or two, and you already bumped your odds of success a lot higher, and taking a risk of building a product which is time consuming or costs money is way better justified after this step. So like this, you can also fail faster and, as a consequence of this, build more cases. If each of your case manages to go, let's say, back here and then fails, you spend all this time for all of those cases over and over again, only to fail at that point, at this very late point. So this is really costly for you. You can spend a year or two trying to reach product market fit and then quit and fail. Like this, you're not going to succeed building a startup. So what you try to do is you try to fail early and fail fast, so you can move on to the next startup case. And this, as said before, is not always trivial, but you try to do the things that have a low chance of success, but also a low effort first. So you can quit and fail fast, move to the next thing. Maybe also a thing that is maybe not so clear in this illustration and visualization. You're most likely not doing 10 startup cases at the same time. At least I don't recommend you to do that. Maybe in the idea phase, maybe concept phase, you can do some in parallel. But when trying to reach problem solution fit and building MVP, it doesn't make sense. Then you try to focus on one. So basically, this illustration is more over your whole horizon of trying to build startup cases, the amount of cases that you can try and can build, and not at the same time. So basically, just first try to build one case, you fail, build the next one, fail, build the next one, fail, build the next one, fail again, build the next one, fail again, build the next one, fail again. And at some point, you then hopefully manage to build a successful startup. I hope I've clarified this concept now so you can work with it and try to improve your odds of building a startup case by increasing the odds at each gate and failing fast, which increases the total amount of cases that you can build during your startup journey. Thank you so much for watching.